From victim mentality into authenticity, how doing the work and going through the process and trusting in her divine spiritual source led to her having clarity to what she needed to do, what she wanted to do, and what how she is divinely meant to inspire others, and how you can do that too. We'll give you some pointers on how you can go through that process and learn what you're divinely meant to do too. But before I introduce our guest, Amber Scott, I want to remind you that this episode is brought to you by Black Oswald Coffee, the brand that's redefining your morning ritual with rich, bold, and delicious flavors and a commitment to mental wellness. If you're looking for a coffee that fuels both body and mind, Black Aswad is your go-to. You can learn more at www.blackaswadcoffeeco.com, and of course we have the link to this in the show notes, in the descriptions, in the captions. Without further ado, our guest, Amber Scott.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you so much for having me this morning.
Of course. Thanks for being here. Of course, I know that Amber has got so many beautiful levels to her story. And I was like, you have to come on the show. Everybody needs to hear from you. Amber and I have worked together in multiple different capacities, and she's worked with me for some projects in her own professional realm. So I'm excited for you to share who you are first and what brought you to what you do today. And then we can go into the story.
Yeah, so who I am is an individual that loves to dive into spirituality and self-development and really get to know who I am as a person here on this earth. It's been a journey, and to be where I am at today is just been liberating is all I can say. And yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. So, let's get into it. This is what we did. We did like maybe a 30-second meditation this morning of what do we want to talk about today, Amber? What do we want to focus on? And you felt like you wanted to talk about how you went from the victim mentality into authenticity. And that was a big one for me too. So let's just get into it. Go for it.
Yeah, so it's such a long story. I mean, we're raised on through our parents and the generations, and we learn the patterns that our parents are taught, what we are taught. And I found myself in a lot of relationships that weren't supportive to me and my growth and my evolution. If anything, I found myself going backwards into who I was. I was a very positive, cheerful person. And then I just became this angry human, negative, and just didn't feel myself anymore. And that led me into one, leaving a narcissistic relationship and then starting my journey through therapy. And through therapy is where I discovered, you know, the modalities besides Western medicine. I learned meditation, I learned breath work, and that's when I really started to figure out that I actually was a dissociative person. I
Hmm.
wasn't connected to the present moment at all because I was just
Hmm.
fight or flight all of the time.
Hmm. So tell
And
me a little bit more. I'd love to know more about that narcissistic relationship and how that affected you. What was going on there? Because maybe some of the viewers or listeners can relate to that.
the biggest thing that I saw in myself after I left, because I had more awareness to look back and see what actually was happening. But when you're in the moment, when you're in the relationship, you have no clue
Yeah.
until like sometimes you just have this aha moment or this intuitive nudge, like it's not right. And when I left the relationship, I realized I disconnected from my family, my friends, and it was all about them. And that also came with people pleasing. Like
Mm,
I didn't want to fight. I didn't want to argue. I just wanted to make everybody happy. And it's just wasn't realistic.
yeah.
And when it came down to it, because I was people pleasing and because I was trying to make him happy, I wasn't focusing on me and myself. And I started to deteriorate, like I was a happy go lucky, like wanted to spend time with family and friends and travel and do all these things. And I no longer wanted to do it. I worked, I went up to his house every weekend, stayed there. And then that's when I also started to realize who I was being was negative,
Mm,
angry. There was a rage that came out of me that I was like, I don't know who this is. Like when
mm,
we would get in fights, like I would tear clothes apart and I was like, who am I?
mhm.
And you would think at that point I would be like, see you later. But it actually took my sister's wedding for him to um say to me, finally I get some attention. And I said, see you later.
Yeah. What did he mean by that? Finally, I get some attention.
I love dancing. It was my sister's wedding. I was the matron of honor, so
Yeah,
I
of
was taking
course.
care of her. I was on the dance floor having a good time because that is me, you
Yes.
know?
Yes.
And to me, your significant other should be able to
Yeah,
interact with other people and keep themselves entertained,
and
especially in this
recognize
kind of
that this
moment.
is day is not about them whatsoever.
Right, right. So a slow song came on and I went to find him because I'm like, okay, now it's time.
Yeah.
And I asked him if he wanted to dance, and that's when he said,
Yeah, finally I get some attention. And I mean, it makes total sense. And again, and not again, but I haven't said this yet. This episode of Awful, Okay, Awesome, but I'm not, a mental health professional, but I everything I know is just through coaching or certifications or social media. But I mean, I find that I hear that a lot, that it's very common that the narcissist um entice you to become this angry person, because you're just like, you feel like you're crazy. You don't you There's no accountability on the other part of it, and you don't feel heard. You're often stonewalled just for the sake of um being punished and gaining that control. And so people who are like you, who are empaths and actually good people, they are driven to this madness because you just feel so powerless. You don't know what else to do. You like can't feel heard otherwise. Does that resonate or no?
oh, 100%. And they entice us because we are in the fight or flight. We are in that dissociative state that we don't have any awareness of what's going on. And
Mhm.
not until you actually start doing the work do you realize that that's the state that you're in. And with the people pleasing, not having boundaries, not being able to say no, it just you just continue and think everything's okay until you have that moment of clarity. And some people unfortunately don't get that moment of clarity, and that's why I started to do the work that I do.
Yeah. So tell me about that. Tell me about the work that you do. And honestly, and I put the title on this live on our Facebook. And again, guys, we are recording. For those of you who are just joining us, we are recording the newest episode of Awful Okay Awesome that streams on all your podcast platforms if you want to re-listen to everything, and on YouTube and Vimeo, and on our Roku channel, Whole Truth Communications. But with the title on here, I put intuitive decor designer Amber Scott-Johnston. But what is your official title?
So I keep
Because isn't
switching
that
it.
the question? That's the question that I'm like, I don't know what the F I am. Money flow strategist at this point. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm a combination of energetic and intuitive.
Yeah.
Like the work that I've done for the last 8 years has been really diving into me, getting to know myself again after realizing I was in such a state of flight or flight and dissociation. So it was
Yeah.
really bringing myself back to the present moment and being in consciousness and understanding where I'm at. And rebuilding who I am and letting that shine. And with that work, I've led myself down this holistic path, which investing in therapists, taking a shamanic apprenticeship for a year.
What is that?
So that's a Peruvian. It's not. I worked with
What?
an instructor that worked with the shamanic individuals of Peru, but it's worldwide. And it's diving into, I'm not going to explain it right because it's been a while since I've done it, but it's really tapping into who you are. You're
Okay.
learning about earth, water, fire, air, ether, and how you connect to every one of those, where are your strengths, where are your weaknesses, what
Mm.
can you build on. And it's really just diving into yourself intuitively to really
Yeah.
start to know who you are.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. I love that. Keep going.
So it started with that. And then there was just so much clarity and so much alignment, and the realization I had when I started meditation and breath work and the shamanic apprenticeship is that I realized that who I've been being is not who I want to be in the
Mhm.
future.
Mhm.
And we did all that I did all that practice, I did all that connection work. And then through my therapist, I went down this path of, they call it a family constellation. And
Okay.
I'm not great at explaining that either, but it's
That's
a
okay.
group session, a group ceremony where you pick a topic that you want to discuss.
With your family?
No, you take someone else but your family, but
Okay.
everyone there is a representation of who's in that scenario. So you
Okay.
do take someone with you because whatever comes from this scene,
Yeah.
you want someone there to help you remember it because it may be a lot of information to download.
Yeah.
And I was physically assaulted in 2011 in Florida, and I still had some
I do
anger from
remember you
that.
telling me about that. Yeah, of
Yeah,
course.
and I just wanted to dive into that. And this is where the story of victimhood starts for me, where I have clarity that I was playing the victim mentality and how I've been able to get out of it. But during this ceremony, these individuals were playing my abuser, someone was playing me, someone was playing my best friend because she was there, and they
Yeah.
just kind of like energetically, that part it's hard for me to explain, but it's like the quantum field kind of overtakes these people and they just kind of get these downloads that they work with.
Wow.
Well, in the middle of this scene of reenactment, they described it like a tornado and the scene completely swapped. And what came to fruition was that I was sexually assaulted as a kid.
Wow.
And from that moment on, I didn't know how to get myself because, like, I didn't know, I didn't remember it. Explains why I've been disassociated for so long.
Yeah.
And I worked with my therapist, and I got stuck in the story. I got stuck of, well, this is me, like, woe is me. And like,
Right.
I couldn't get it out of my mind.
Yeah.
And I wasn't aware of it. My therapist at that time was taking me through wanting to refeel everything, which
It's
I
so hard.
it's so hard. And I believe you need to feel to heal, but I
Mhm.
don't think you need to feel every
You
single
don't wanna
moment.
relive it.
No, you want to feel the emotions and you want to release
Mhm.
the emotions, but you don't necessarily want to feel the actual scenario again.
Right.
And she led me down that path, and that's what stuck me in probably a couple years of victimhood of like, this is me, this is my story. People would
Yeah.
ask about it and I would just be stuck in it, not realizing that like I was making that who I was, and it was just.
Mhm.
And that stayed for a couple years. I invested in coaching, as I started to want to create my business and get myself out of 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Well, 2 Februarys ago, I went to a weekend retreat where we disconnected from phones, TVs, everything of that sort. That weekend was my epiphany. Um, we worked with my coach, and she, like, asked us questions about our business and, like, personal things, and all I could hear was the same story of me telling myself that I am the identity of me is my sexual assault from when I was little.
Yeah.
And in that moment, I said, "No more. That is
Right.
not who I am."
Right.
And from that moment on, when I talk about it, there's no attachment to it. Whereas I was
Beautiful.
completely attached to it, now I'm
Beautiful. Yeah.
not. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's been interesting, but to be able to detach from a scenario and still share the story,
Mhm.
that I feel is empowering and liberating in
It's
itself.
life-changing.
Mhm.
I'm constantly reading and watching at least 10 minutes a day of content that is the divine truth to remind us, because there's so many circumstances every day that are thrown at us, and I don't think it's a coincidence that just yesterday the 10 bit well, I got addicted and ended up listening, or to almost the whole thing, just re-listening to the movie The Secret as I'm driving. I don't know if you watch it. So many people have. It's such a staple in the community of the divine truth, right? It's like kind of like beginners 101 to it. But that's what they mentioned, was that we all have a story and things happen to us, and it's that not allowing it to be the reason why we're weighed down, but knowing, okay, it happened. How do we go from here? How do we shift? How do we grow from here, right? So
Mhm.
do you feel like that detachment has helped you to also have clarity towards um, what you're doing now? But before you answer that question, um, speaking of this whole journey, it sounds like it really helped you with your mental health, and I just wanted to remind you guys um, to please support the brand that is our sponsor, Black Aswad Coffee Co., because all their proceeds, they put a lot of efforts towards helping those in the mental wellness industry, and they will partner with organizations to raise funds for proceeds to go and help individuals struggling with their mental health journey. But please continue, Ember. So do you feel like not allowing yourself, it sort of just happened, right, to experience that moment of detachment, and now you're able to speak about it without feeling like you're the victim of it still? Has that allowed you to move forward into what you're meant to do?
100%. As we detach from the past and the old stories and kind of rewrite where we want to go, um, it opens up space for growth and evolution. And as that detachment has detaching from that, from all of the things that I've kind of gone through, it opens up space for the growth. And that also has opened up my intuitive gifts. So being able to spend more time in meditation and get the downloads and clarity and connecting with who I am as with my higher self, I'm able to realize that I have a bigger purpose than just what interior design is.
And
You
exterior
know,
design too, right?
yeah.
So tell me a little bit more about that, because I know that I myself have, you know, we've got this beautiful big home that I love, that I manifested, that I put on the vision board, through my husband's work. It came through. I always would do, thinking that, okay, my marketing agency needs to get to millions. That way I have this beautiful home on this beautiful property. And I kept like attaching it to that. But then once I put it on the vision board, it, and detached from it with the expectations, it came through my husband's work as a land developer. And but there's many things that I didn't specify on the vision board that exist in this home that I'm like, I would not have done this, I would not have picked this. And so in my journals, I don't Amber, you don't know this, but I'm like, okay, my next I do the journal in the present moment of, I'm working with Amber, here's what we're doing to the bathroom, here's what we're doing to the attic, here's what we're doing to the basement, because I know you are not merely an interior and exterior designer, but you work intuitively with how this space is going to be in alignment with your higher self. How is this space going to inspire you? How is this space going to bring you peace? How is this space going to bring harmony? Do you want to speak on that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So the intuitive, energetic, whichever title we want to use, interior designer is to bring in the coaching aspect beforehand, because I really want to dive in and get to know who the individuals are that I'm working with on a deeper level, and also helping them support what they need to let go of that is holding them into the past. One of my biggest stories that I like to share is from my physical assault. I kept all of the paperwork, and
Mm,
that paperwork sat in a file cabinet in my closet in my office.
mm,
And I set up this room just to be my office and my meditation space.
mm,
And I barely sat in it. And I was going through a
mm.
21-day program, and one of the days is to declutter. I declutter all the time, consistently.
Yeah.
But when we think of that, we think of clothes, shoes, maybe some decor, um, kind of the surface level stuff. And I
Yeah.
was doing that same thing. Like, I was like, okay, clothes here, clothes there. Let's get rid of these shoes. I don't use this artwork anymore. And I was sitting there one after I was done with that, and I was like, I think I'm done. And I was in meditation and in silence, and it was like, nope, you're not done. And I got a nudge, and I was like, okay, well, what else do I need to release? And that's when I heard that I need to release this paperwork. And I we had just moved into our home, so we didn't have a fire pit, anything of that sort. So we grabbed a bucket, we went on the patio, and I took the police report, the medical, everything paperwork related to that assault, and I burned it that night. And this is something I learned through the shamanic apprenticeship is you're releasing the attachments, the energetic quantum field attachments that are to you through those physical things. Like everything is energy.
Yeah.
So as much as you don't think it is, everything has a subconscious value to you, and it's the story that you have with it. So when I burned that, it I instantly felt lighter. I sobbed because I was releasing that. And then within the next couple days of burning that paperwork, I wanted to spend more time in my space. Meditation was a lot easier.
Mm,
More creative downloads were coming. And it was in that moment that I was like, oh, this is how I need to work with my clients. We need to
mm,
remove those subconscious attachments that we don't think about. Absolutely get rid of the clothes, absolutely get rid of the shoes and books and everything of that sort, but really dive into what is in your space that may not be your 10 out of 10.
mm. Yeah. And I just want to share some in a way that I've worked with Amber in this way, not exactly in this way, but I don't know if I even shared the depths of this with you because it was such a crazy time. My parents had bought this condo. And it feels like maybe a couple years later, my mom was diagnosed. She had beet cancer. They downsized to this condo. It feels like only a few years later, she was diagnosed with cancer again and didn't make it. And at the same time, we realized that my dad had Alzheimer's. And so it was this like, when she was consistently in the hospital, we're thinking my dad's okay at home. And no, the place was in disarray. It was just awful. It really exacerbated his hoarding tendencies, and the place was just so much. And then after losing my mom and realizing my dad, we had a few instances where he like went missing, just some scary things of care. We would try to go as much as we could to take care of him, and some caretakers just a few instances where we're just like, okay, he needs to go somewhere else. We need to sell this place to fund it, to help fund it. And um and Amber came in as our real estate agent as well. Are you still practicing real estate?
I'm not.
Okay.
there's
Well,
there's a
at the
lot of
time,
doors I've closed over the last year or
good.
so.
Well, at the time, and that included that the her intuitive interior design skills, and she was able to come in and tell us, remove this, open this space up, do this, do this. And so we were able to do that, and then she came in and she staged it. And I just remember when we posted the photos to the MLM, am I saying that right?
Mhm.
um we just had moments of tears with my sisters and my siblings, because like my mom would have been so fudging proud. I'm gonna say fucking, so fucking proud of this space, this little condo that she found and she wanted so badly. And that's a whole story of divine timing as well. And like these pic, and everybody, I remember thinking, who saw them, who was in the building, were like, this place is gonna sell fast. This looks so good, and you should have seen this place before Amber put her hands on it. It was just like, who's gonna want this? I mean, it was a beautiful, beautiful condo, but with the position that it was in and things that had happened, we were like, well, how are we even gonna do this? And she was able to intuitively just do things in a way that made it. And the person who bought it was her first home. She was so excited. Funny story is Amber made the bed and box spring look so good that the person actually thought it was a bed and was like so upset actually. It was just because we were like, yeah, you can have that. And then she's like, oh, it's just a mattress and a box spring. But we were just like tears of joy. Like she would have been so proud. And guess what? They sold it for double of what they bought it for only a few years after. So this wasn't like they'd hung on to it for decades. And yeah, of course they sold it for double. No, it was only a few years. And everybody was just blown away and so inspired by it. And it just brought us so much joy that my mom would have been so proud. And I kind of got to, until we put it on the market or sold it, I got to have like my own space to connect with my mom until we actually closed on it. I would go and work there just because that's what I used to do on a weekly basis. I'd go and watch a movie with her. And so I did that with her while she was gone. So that was super special, Amber. I just wanted to share that with you as well. And a testimony to your work. I mean, you've got other stories, so you've got to come back on the show. But is there anything else that you want to share before we head off?
No, I just want to say thank you for sharing that. I got chills while you were sharing that
Oh,
story. That's the biggest thing that I've learned and why I'm creating what I'm creating. And as I mentioned, like I dissolved a lot of what I was doing. I got rid of my real estate license. I don't focus on full service interior design anymore. I don't do the staging. Like I'm 100% focused on learning how to coach and work with the emotions. So somatic inquiry, breath work, meditation, and really diving into the root causes of these emotions, because our home is a reflection of what's going on internally. And I want to help individuals release that pain that they're holding on to, like myself, shame, guilt, anger, whatever it may be. And a lot of those things, you mentioned the hoarding tendencies, it comes with loss and grief and anxiety. And being in a class right now where I get to learn how to support individuals in that capacity brings more purpose for me in the interior design realm. So we work on that first, and then we create the space that's not only in alignment to who they are now, but who they want to become. And that's why working with them on a deeper level at the beginning is so helpful for me, because I'm already in my mind of visioning what their future self wants
mm,
to be. And I create spaces for them now, but make sure I have items in that space that's inspiration for them to continue moving forward.
mm, yeah. And I feel like that for your clients probably feels that much more special because they're a part of the journey, and they're creating visions themselves, and it isn't just somebody coming in and saying do this and this and this. They're a part of the process, and it feels like they're creating a home that means something. I know that for me, that's a big thing is I want every little thing to mean something. I don't want things to just come in from, a box store. I want every little piece, to mean something. And so I think that's so special that you help people through that. And yeah, we're gonna be doing some big things to this home together, Amber. I just have a, what is the saying? I have a caviar taste with a tuna fish budget at the moment. So we're gonna make
Oh,
it happen.
yeah. And I like the vision that I've had for, a lot of people understand interior design as luxury.
Mhm,
It can be luxury. But as you
mhm.
mentioned, like I love restoration hardware, but I also love things from Amazon. Luxury
Yeah,
is an experience. And
right.
that's where I'm here to change the game in interior design. It's not about luxury. It's luxury for you and how you
And
experience
how you
life.
feel about it. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've got a ton of pieces just in the studio alone down here that I'd love to incorporate in some designs, and um yeah, I'm excited about it. But before we wrap up, a final shout out to our sponsor, Black Aswad Coffee Co. Elevate your coffee experience with ethically sourced beans that taste amazing and support mental wellness. Grab your bag today at www.blackaswadco.com and use the code AWESOME15 for an amazing deal exclusively for you, our listeners and watchers. And don't forget, I'm Marta Saray Greca, your host of this episode of Awful, Okay, Awesome, a show about stories of trials and tribulations turned into passion and purpose through perseverance. And it brings you a little bit of internal peace too whenever you go through it. And I'm a financial rep, aka a money flow strategist. I can help you find hidden money in your life, how to grow it, how to expand it, how to be the best steward of the sources that God has bestowed upon you. And our financial rep business is growing. There's more and more money in the world that needs managed and a shortage of financial reps, especially female financial reps. So if you'd like to join my team, please send me a PM. And if you have money in your life that you're wondering, what's the best thing that I can do for my family? And my own passion projects are your life insurance. I want to make sure that you're properly life insurance. So send me a PM. I can help you with all those things. And please do reach out to Amber. Amber, what's your favorite form that people can find you?
Um, it'll be Instagram, and that's at Amber Scott-Johnston.
All right. And we'll be sharing this on our Instagram. You can watch it on your favorite platform for podcast listening, YouTube, Vimeo, and our TV channel, our newest TV channel on Roku, Whole Truth Communications. Thank you. Till next time.